Good evening. I am Councillor Green and I will chair the subcommittee for this meeting. I would like to first introduce the members of the subcommittee along with me this evening. On my right, Councillor Heath, and on my left, Councillor Lydiard. Also in attendance, we have the licensing officers, Paul Adams and Liz Cox. Legal advisor, Godwin Mangees, and clerk, Kenna Haley. I'd like to go first to agenda item 1, apologies. I have not received any apologies this evening. Item 2 on the agenda, urgent business. I have not been advised of any items of urgent business this evening. Item 3 of the agenda, declarations of interest. Can I first start by inviting members of the subcommittee to declare any interest? Councillor Lydiard.
Very minor interest, really, Chair. I was a member of the rugby club about 20 years ago and I lived very close to it as well.
Thank you, Councillor Lydiard. That is no more. Item 3 on the agenda. Item 4 on the agenda, determination of an application to grant a premises licence. I would like to explain the process of this evening's hearing. First, the licensing officer will present their report. Following this, all members and all relevant parties will have their opportunity to ask any questions. Then, each party will be given the opportunity to give their case, which again is followed by questions from members and all parties in attendance. Once everyone has presented their case, all parties will have time to give a closing summary with the licence holder having the final say. The subcommittee will then retire to consider its decision and will be accompanied by the clerk and legal advisor. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Does anybody have any of the parties here this evening have any further requests in particular? Permission for another person to appear, other than specified in the advance notice, for permission to cross-examine, or any other requests? Go ahead, sir.
I don't think I put on my letter that you sent me about... I've got that one, sir. Originally, you sent me a letter, and on there it stated if I was going to have anybody else come with me, and I left Guy off. So obviously, Guy is with me tonight, who's a member and a committee member of the rugby club.
Thank you for letting us know. That's no problem. Thank you. Welcome. So I would now like to go on, and I'd like to ask the licensing officer to present their factual report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. An application has been received for a new premises licence at Bar 1928 at Thurrock Rugby Club on Long Lane in Grays. Representations were received from Essex Police and a local resident. This evening, the subcommittee will need to consider the report and appendices together with any oral submissions at the hearing and determine this application to grant the premises licence in line with the options under the Licensing Act 2003. The application was received on the 14th of February of this year and it was submitted on behalf of Thurrock Rugby Club. The application is for a new licence just to cover the first floor of the building above Orsett Heath Academy offices. A copy of the full application and supporting documentation is attached to Appendix 1 at page 13. A location map is at Appendix 2. We did have an issue with the corrupted file, so the actual plan of the premises wasn't attached to the agenda. If anyone needs a copy, we have them printed out here, but for some reason my file got corrupted. The application is requesting live music, recorded music and supply of alcohol Monday to Wednesday, midday to 11 p.m, Thursday, midday to midnight, and Friday to Sunday, midday to 1 a.m. Late night refreshment would also be provided Thursday from 11 p.m. till midnight and Friday to Sunday, 11 p.m. till 1 a.m. During the consultation period, a representation was received from a local resident, which is Appendix 3. They could not attend this evening but did ask that the representation was still considered. At 2.5 of the report, Simon Barnes has submitted a representation outlining some concerns, as well as conditions that have been agreed with the applicant and will form part of the licence if granted this evening. All the conditions are listed out at 2.5. I don't propose to read them out verbatim because they are there, and I said the applicant has seen them and agreed with them. A copy of the representation and agreement is at Appendix 4 of the report at page 41. No other representations received from any other responsible authorities. And under the Licensing Act 2003, the licensing objectives are prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and protection of children from harm. All representations must relate to the premises and be relevant to the promotion of one or more of the licensing objectives. Following hearing everything this evening, the following options are available: to grant the application as applied for, to grant it as subject as conditions are necessary and proportionate, or to refuse the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. So I'd like to start off with the members up here. Have you got any questions? Councillor Lydiard.
Just very interested to know how far the new development or this particular room is in metres from the nearest house. I know the area fairly well. I'm just trying to think, is it about 40 metres, and there's a back garden attached to the house, so there's that, and there's some sheds and bits and pieces. So I'm just trying to work out what sort of distance and noise pollution there might possibly be. Only when I used to go to the club, it was always very quiet outside.
According to the map that Mr. Adams is looking at, he says about 50 to 60 metres.
Thank you. I've got a question. So in the application, it says that on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, they are allowed to operate until 1 o'clock. Would that be with live music as well?
Yes, live music is included till 1 a.m. on the application.
Thank you. I know what we've done previously in the subcommittee when we've had this. Is there any way we could add a restriction if we feel necessary to monitor the sound of it or the tempo?
Any conditions can be added as long as they are necessary and proportionate. However, I believe referring to things we've had come up, referring to the Live Music Act, in this situation they would only apply from 11 p.m. onwards, because prior to 11 p.m. the entertainment would be deregulated and therefore not covered by the licence.
Okay, any other questions from members?
Just one more.
Councillor Lydiard.
This new building, is it on what used to be the old tennis courts?
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, have you got any questions? Thank you. Have you gentlemen got any questions of the licensing officer? No. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. At this point, has anyone else got any questions, or can we move on? No. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask Mr. Barnes, could you please present your report?
Yes, that's working. Yes, my name is Simon Barnes. I'm an Essex Police Licensing Officer on behalf of the Chief Officer of Police. I have made representations in relation to this application on the grounds of crime and disorder and the prevention of harm to children. This is a two-part prong. Obviously, any bar is always going to have a slight element of crime and disorder. It is in a new building, which obviously brings about new issues for an area, which is reflected in the conditions that have been put forward to the applicant from page 43 of your bundle. In relation to the children's side of the house, obviously this is technically an academic building. The lower floor is still used by the academy, albeit at the moment for administrative purposes only, but that does not define that in the future, in the event that the academy, heaven forbid, has an incident whereby part of the building becomes offline, that this area may not come back into educational use in the future. And so we have to consider both the current and the future risks for the protection of children. This is why there were additional conditions requested in relation to ensuring alcohol did not reach the lower floors, which would be the remainder of the academy building, albeit, as I say, at the moment, controlled for HR and other administrative functions only. Essex Police also considered live music and recorded music while we were there, but note that the premises' main windows project out onto the main field and towards the major arterial roads rather than the other side of the building, which obviously would lead towards the housing. So we took no energy on those sides. Obviously, we're aware of the public representation, but that doesn't apply into the crime disorder, and I won't go any further and connect to that. We ask that the committee grant, if it is so minded to grant the licence with all conditions outlined from pages 43 to 45 of your bundle, so that the concerns of Essex Police are reasonably well managed for the type of premises, given the location, the hours being requested, particularly 1 a.m, and that obviously for the children point of view, the hours are starting from 11 a.m, well in the middle of the school hours during the operational periods of education.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. I see you've put the restrictions, what you would like to add on to the licence yourself, as the police. Has the applicant agreed to all of them?
As the applicant will most likely say once it comes to their turn. But yes, within my bundle, I believe it is at page 47 of your bundle, the applicant has confirmed that they are accepting of all conditions. There was some to and fro regarding the children elements before it was agreed that ultimately it wouldn't affect the business's way of operating to have put those conditions in place.
Thank you. And have you seen this letter that's come through today from South West Essex?
I have only seen it literally in the last 5 minutes at the beginning of the hearing, so I haven't had time to properly educate myself through. Obviously, I noted comments regarding...
would you like 5 minutes to have a quick look and we could come back to you?
I think that if there's questions in relation to that, then yes, if you would mind giving me the question you were planning to ask, I could then...
I just want to know, after seeing this, has your view changed?
As I said, the problem is at the moment that is great for the current position, but that doesn't define for any emergency or change. It's only the current position. Obviously, they've also noted that, for instance, I'm sorry what was in here, the operation of the rugby club and its licensed venues is entirely outside of school hours, but that is contradicted by the licence application being at 11 a.m. unless the school only runs till 11 a.m, which I suspect is not the case.
Would you like to take up the offer?
I'll have a read through if you wish to go to...
I don't mind suspending for 5 minutes if you'd like to come, because we're at you.
I probably only need literally another minute or two just to read through, make sure
Okay, can we
I'm
just,
understanding.
if it's okay with everyone, I just would like to suspend the meeting for 2 minutes to give Mr. Barnes time to read this lesson. Can we just suspend the meeting for 2 minutes, please? Thank you. Everyone for waiting. Have you got anything else after reading that site, Mr. Barnes?
So obviously, having had sight of this letter, obviously I'd make note of the fact that obviously regular use has been terminated whilst occasionally, but I note that it states whilst occasional use remains possible for up to 60 children. So that means that we could have this happening without any warning. There would be no way to use mechanisms like a review or anything to change the conditions in the event the school had to shift suddenly. So our position remains unchanged.
And if the applicant accepted, let's say, this restriction, that if children return to the premises, at that time the licence would be suspended during that period until the children leave the school again, would you be happy with that?
I can certainly see there's a possibility of that being effective. It obviously would negate some of the concerns. Obviously, the other concerns is obviously once bottles leave the upstairs area, if downstairs is being used and kids will be in the area, we would be concerned about bottles being left accessible to children the next school day, which adds additional burdens on the academy as well.
Paul, you'd like to come in now?
Sorry, just an observation in relation to a condition where effectively you're suspending the licence. I think we would need just to give that some consideration, certainly with legal, as to whether that would be a lawful and enforceable condition, because there is a mechanism for suspending licences under the Licensing Act, and by condition wouldn't necessarily be possible to do that. So I think if that's the intention of a condition, it would probably be worth some serious consideration around something like that. But I think, yeah, it would need a bit more conversation with licensing and probably legal just to look at the legalities of that as a condition. I think, Chair, as a suggestion, I think perhaps if you have the hearing before you come to any decision, see what the applicant is putting forward in relation to some of the concerns, because they may well address the concerns before you, and there is no need for any conditions to be considered. If you're still at the point where you're feeling that a condition like that would be reasonable, then I think you know, we can have a think about how that could be constructed and discuss that as a whole, really, just as a suggestion, Chair.
Okay, we'll go with that. Thank you, Paul. So, have you got any questions? Councillor Lydiard.
Can I? How far is this building away from the actual school buildings? Well, anyone, really, yeah.
Yeah, so the building was originally a school before the main school got built, and the agreement that we was taking over the first floor and downstairs would be used for offices. So since the new school has been built, there's been no children in there. Also, there has been no plans for children to come back, but I understand obviously some concerns from there. The building at the moment is some 300-400 metres away from the new school, and it also is everything is fenced in and it's got its own gated areas and so on. And I had this letter done from Mr. Monday, the chief executive of the school. We have already had the school at the rugby club, and we have dealt with all the safeguarding issues before, and they're far more stringent than what we have to deal with from Mr. Barnes. So we've been practicing it already. It's been in place and it's worked very well. We've not had no cross-contamination from children and obviously from the drinking side and so on and stuff like that.
Thanks ever so much. I didn't realise it was as much as 300 or 400 yards away from the school, so I haven't been around there for quite some time. But yeah, thanks for that. You've clarified that very well.
Any other questions? No, thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to the applicants. Can you present your case and everything you've heard here today, please?
Yeah, I think everything has been covered from our side. I've sort of met with Mr. Barnes and agreed to everything that he's had concerns with. We've put a lot of the things in place already. And I know he was concerned about the children, but as you see from the letter, it's quite clear from the school that it's a high priority for them for safeguarding. And we work together very closely to obviously make sure that works. Bearing in mind, most of what we are doing at the bar there is for functions, for weekends, and we do have some conferences that are held there through the day, but predominantly most of it is just weekends only. We're not looking to open it as a pub, every day of the week. It is just purely for functions. We already have our other bar that we will then put stuff on there as well, you know, funerals and stuff like that. So we're just very choosy of what we're doing at both sites. But I'm happy with what's been said. Guy, I don't know if you've got nothing to add, so.
Any additional restrictions? And any additional guidance or restrictions that you would want to put on that to appease Mr Barnes's concerns, then we would be more than happy to do so.
That would be my question. Thank you for answering that already.
What I would say, Chair, is that obviously we've got a really good working relationship with us at Heath Academy. If they came to us and said something's happened on a weekend and we need that space, then they would have that space. We would do everything that we could to facilitate them going back to business as normal as quickly as possible. And if that impacted on us, then the school for us, as much as it's, you know, the funds for the club are important, the school is more important. So if we ever had that catastrophic event where the school was unable to operate and needed that space, then they would get that space.
Thank you. And just one final question. If we had a restriction on music after 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock, that the sound has to be turned down after that period, would you be okay with that?
Yes, we would. And we already run a bar which has music and it has a license till 1 o'clock. And I don't think that we haven't had a single complaint for a lot of years. You also mentioned about where the music is coming from is all projected over to our playing fields and also onto the farmers' fields and then to the road. So the noise levels don't come at the front at all. And I say we've not had no complaints whatsoever. But if we had some concerns and then someone was to come and say to us, look, there's a problem, we don't have no problems in conforming to that and turning music down. It's not a problem at all.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lydiard, you have a question?
I would say, I was going to ask you whether the culture of the rugby club is respectful and honest and abiding. I'm saying this because that's how I remember it. Has it continued to be like that?
It has, Councillor Lydiard, yes. And, you know, we're a community rugby club. We are made up of members of the community. I live about 100 metres away from yourself. So it's, you know, we are part of the community. We are the community. It's not just the rugby club that's there. You've got the running club. You've got the other groups that use the facilities that we have. So, yes, we're more than respectful of our neighbours.
Thank you, Councillor Lydiard. Councillor Heath.
You've said that the current bar plays music till 1 o'clock. Do you know how close it is to the nearest house or the nearest houses?
If you want me to point out from here where we are, I would say the nearest house is the building there with the glass windows up with the white frames.
Right, so probably about the same as the house for the new building then. Be about the same area, do you think?
Sorry, I don't understand that. You want to know how far?
So you've said that the current bar that you've got.
Yep.
You've got music licence till 1 o'clock and
Yep.
you've had no complaints. So whereabouts is the closest house to that?
It's probably only about 20 metres more
Right.
to that nearest house. And what we have as well is that we have only houses to our right-hand side of the premises. So it doesn't actually surround us at all. We have the school at one side, fields covered around by fields, and just to the back of us is where the back of the houses are.
Right, thank you. And on the letter, the school has said that there's a series of maglock doors.
Yes.
So those are in place
So we have
permanently?
our own, on the upstairs, is that we have security access doors at both ends. We also have security access doors on the main door coming in. We also have the separation from us to the offices. We have security maglock doors. And also on the front of the building, there are security maglock doors as well that all work on an intercom.
Right, thank you. And last question. The school has said that if children need to be on site during opening hours, there'll be DBS checks for members of the rugby club who are on site, and they'll be placed on the school's single central record. Would you be happy for that to remain in place as a condition?
Yes, that's currently in place at the moment. So the current people that access our site when the school was there, bearing in mind the school and the children have now disappeared.
Yeah.
They was all DBS checked from the school anyway. So anybody had any form of integration or on the premises when the children was there have all been DBS checked.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Any other questions? Thank you. Any questions from the licensing officers? Mike?
Sorry. I think in relation to the premises currently, there is a licence already covering this part of the building that's held by the rugby club. And this new licence that's being applied for, does that replicate what already exists and is held by the rugby club at the moment?
It does, yes. So the licence that we've, to have it, bar 1928, to have its own licence, replicates what we've already got with Thurrock Rugby Club's main building.
But the licence for the rugby club also covers this area
At this moment in time.
at this moment in time, so it's already licensed.
Yes, so the premise is already licensed and has been since February.
Could you just explain the reasoning for a separate licence being applied for just for that standalone building, as opposed to the rugby club retaining it?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is that we wanted, the application is by the rugby club, and any of the funds and anything comes from the rugby club, from that bar goes into the rugby club. What we wanted to do was we wanted to make that side more of a corporate side, and we have Mrs. Burrows, who currently has the licence. She's busy enough with the bar that we have at the moment, and I have now taken over to push the corporate side of the new bar, making sure that we have trying to get day events and corporate meetings and so on and stuff like that, as well as the nighttime events and so on. And it's only because of my skill set is what I do that I'm in that business world, so I've got plenty of people there that would want to rent the space and use it and stuff like that. So it's the only reason, probably workload. She has enough to do, and I've come in and obviously I've got my own plans and how I want it to run and stuff like that, that's all.
And have you held events up until 1 a.m. with live or recorded music in that space up until now, or no? You've not? So it's not been used for any licensable regulated entertainment up until now. I think that's all for me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barnes, have you got any questions?
Unfortunately, so obviously, Mr. Adams has pointed out regarding there's obviously a licence already for the other building. This is actually separate because it's obviously a different building which wasn't there when that licence was granted. Because the licensing, the actual outline is for the clubhouse, which is, I believe, if my memory serves, you have the bar 1928 building, it's in the next building over. So just to clarify that effectively there is no overlap between these two licenses. This is a new license in a new area, fenced off separately to that building.
Yeah, so presently it's covered by the main club licence. And what we want to do is make it its own standalone event space, if you like. It is fenced off, it is secure, and we just want to be able to run it slightly differently to the main bar. And as Jason said, Jane Burrows, who is the licensee, does have her hands full with a rugby club with 7, 8 men's and ladies teams, a whole youth section, a whole junior section. So there's constantly events taking place, and it's not fair that she has that responsibility for the 2 bars. And this is the second committee we've been to, because the first committee was at the rugby club to have the decision to come and get its own licence.
Any more questions, Mr. Barnes?
No further questions.
Thank you. Before we move on, we spoke earlier, and you raised this poll about that restriction about children. I do feel that may need to go in place.
Yeah, just sort of thinking about a possible condition, it might be that you could say that have a condition that says no licensable activity may take place when children from the whatever trust it is in situ in that building or something like that, rather than to use the terminology the license is suspended or something like that. I think that would make it something that is easily enforceable, lawful in that terms. I mean, we can look at the wording precisely, if that's the sort of thing that you're looking at. But I think something with the wording around that would be much better suited, in if that's your concern.
Thank you. And would you be happy with that? No problem at all. Thank you. Mr. Barnes, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, it's just when discussing that, it's probably something using the language of disapplying. It's probably the alcohol with most, from a policing perspective, we're most concerned about. If they were wanting to have late night refreshment or food or anything like that, we wouldn't have that problem at that time of night. And allowing for recorded music in case they were just having a event up there that was non-alcohol, again, as long as it's reasonable for the school, we wouldn't be opposed to those activities continuing if the alcohol was disapplied while children were present. But obviously we leave it to the committee whether you would be concerned about recording live music as well during that period.
And adding that restriction would help with a lot of your concerns.
I think it was it's a different option. I wanted to avoid any disapplication because it could be quite broad brushed going there, because obviously the kids might be there for 2 hours for suspension, but then the logistics, it would effectively shut them down for the day, because it'll be very difficult to distinguish between them being there for 30 minutes for a chat versus them being there the whole day.
Okay, thank you. You go. You may go.
So obviously, I know there's some concerns about the children, but from the letter from Mr. Monday, the chief exec here, they are very hot on obviously the safety and welfare of the children, and we've already been operating in our own space with the children now, and we've never had no issues whatsoever. So they would dictate of what we need to do. If they need to have a bit of space, we wouldn't be doing anything with our bar is all secure and obviously all closed off, and shutters and locked doors and so on and stuff like that. So I think your belt and braces type thing is already in here, because they couldn't do anything with us having some form of selling alcohol while they've got children on the premises. So.
And I think for the school to want to use the facility, it would take something of a force majeure for them. But we'd be more than happy with whatever wording Mr. Adams wants to come up with.
Fantastic. And I think that would, if we did use that, I think that would clear up a lot of concerns by quite a lot of people.
Well, let's have our meeting first.
And obviously we'd have to have our decision. We'd have to have our meeting first. So if we would let move on. So can the licensing officer, can you please summarise your case?
Thank you, Chair. You've heard evidence from everyone this evening, and you've heard from the applicant on steps that have already been taken to address concerns and their views and proposals to further address them. So it's now for the committee to determine the application in line with the available options. Thank you.
And thank you. And Mr Barnes, would you like to summarise your case?
Yes, so obviously we would like the conditions that we've outlined. Obviously, if you are thinking of changing and putting disapplication, it might be whether you consider that replacing the need for condition 12 in my bundle at page 44, 45. That I leave in your judgment. We've put this here to be as light touch as we can be, whilst bearing in mind those concerns. We also have to remember that at the moment will be part of the rugby club. There is no guarantees who may inherit this licence over the coming years. Vice versa, there's also no guarantees that the academy may move out of the building entirely in the coming years. We can't always predict that, and we have to factor that within our thinking when we put forward these conditions.
Thank you, Mr Barnes. And gentlemen, can I please ask you to summarise your case?
Yeah, just all I would like to say is that, you know, we're happy to accommodate whatever we need to for the police, and we're conform as we have done for the last 30, 40 years in the club, with no problems, and probably a badge for a distinction, like, you know, so.
Thank you. So with that, I am going to have to change this a little bit. We did say we was going to go and have a meeting, come back. I'm going to change it. We will let you know within 5 days of our decision. So I will end the meeting there. So a decision will be written to you in 5 working days with everything we've said. So if there's nothing else, I will end today's meeting at 19:41. Good evening all. Thank you.